Hey everyone, today I'm going to review a deck that actually a lot of people have requested that I review, and I've had this deck for a very long time. So I don't know why I haven't reviewed it yet, but I'm doing it today, so it's finally happening. We're going to review the Dark Angels Tarot today and talk about that a little bit. It's a dark themed deck, and it's one that I always work with this time of year. Pretty much from September to December I end up pulling this deck out, and I work with it quite a bit. It's actually one of the first decks that I purchased, and as a new or a beginning tarot reader, some of the artwork in the deck did throw me off a little bit when I was trying to work with it in terms of the Rider-Waite-Smith symbolism. So this is really a deck that if you are a beginner, it's important to understand that you can develop your own associations with the cards, your own meanings with the cards, and it's really about what intuitively feels right for you, not what a book or a guidebook is telling you is the meaning of the card. So I would encourage you to really allow this deck to be one that you spend a lot of time with and that you develop your own associations with. It is produced by Lo Scarebeo, which means that the box that the deck came in is a throwaway box. It's a recycle box. It's not one that is going to last very long. It also means that your little white book is not very helpful. So you probably will want a separate book to, if you're new to tarot, to work with this deck. But again, understanding that this is a deck that you create your own associations with. This is the guidebook, and this much is in English, and everything else are the same interpretations in different languages. So you're not getting a lot of information here. It's not really very clear. For instance, the King of Wands. The Angel of Power surveys his domain, the outcome of his actions. So it's cryptic, it's mythic, it's archetypal in the sentence that you're getting. And it really is a jumping off point for meditation and for deeper understanding of the cards. The card quality is pretty flimsy. It's typical Scarebeo. They're really slippery, and so the cards tend to do this. So if you're a person who puts your decks out on your altars like I do, that can be a problem. When someone, accidentally bumps up against the table or the altar space, sometimes they'll slide off, which is kind of irritating. But all Scarebeo decks that I have are like that, so it's something to, you just have to deal with. There's no words on the borders, which I like. It's just the symbols for the minor arcana and Roman numerals for the major. So, that can be great if you're used to reading tarot. If you're new, again, that could kind of trip you up. It's just a matter of referencing the book until you get to know it. I do find, and this is a gripe I typically have with Scarebeo, the little symbol for the knight, the page, and the queen and the king can be irritating if you don't constantly work with the deck to remember which one is which. I mean, the queen and the king are pretty self-explanatory, but the knight and the page or knave, that can be kind of confusing and irritating. They do have a little map at the beginning of the guidebook, which you can reference. But for some reason, for me, like the symbolism for the page, I would think is the knight. So it gets confusing for me. So I want to share a personal story. This is the backing, so you can see that. I love the backing for this deck. Again, this is one of the first decks that I bought, and I hadn't used it in a while. So interestingly enough, I ended up gifting it to one of my sisters-in-law who was starting to look into tarot, and she really liked the deck because it is a darker themed deck. It really spoke to her, and so I gifted it to her. And I, kind of moved on from the deck, and I felt it was where it was supposed to go, and, time went on. I purchased a few other darker decks, and then one morning I just woke up and I was like, I need to work with Dark Angel Tarot, so I ended up purchasing the deck again. So I've purchased this deck twice. And I've had this one now for probably about 1.5 years, 2 years, and I don't regret repurchasing it. Like I said, I don't use this deck all year. It's mainly from September to December, sometimes into January that I use this deck. But when I'm in the mood to work with this deck, I want to work with this deck. The images are photorealism. So some of them I love, some of them I hate. Not hate, dislike. But for the most part, the theme, the arc of the story with this deck is pretty clear. and it's pretty similar. So there aren't a whole ton that really irritate me. It is photorealism, but as you can see, it's portrayed in a way to look very, very gothic. Sorry about my fingernail, guys. I smashed my thumb the other week and it's still healing. Not thumb, my finger. Just my finger. We're just going to leave it there. So you can see here is the Page of Pentacles. So some of the cards like this one I really don't like. But then there's this one, which is the Page of Cups, which I love. So it's called a Dark Angels Tarot, and it has kind of a fallen angel vampy kind of feel to it. Again, it is very dark, so there are not bright colors. And it's really about, I think it does. This is a deck that does require you to spend some time with it and get to know it. It's really about stepping into the emotion or the feeling that the cards give you in this deck, and going with that, again, for me, more than the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith meanings. This is the Tower, and I don't like this depiction of the Tower at all, but there's the Tower for you. This is the Devil, which is really interesting. I don't know. I get it. I like that it's not a traditional Christian image of the devil, but, and I get what they're saying. I mean, I think it's effective. It's just not like my favorite artistically. Here's Temperance. What is this? Like Mr. Kool-Aid Man? I don't. Here's the Two of Wands. Not my favorite image in the deck. It's interesting. So for each of the aces, you can see that the main symbol is shown like close up with hands or something similar to that around it. So it's giving you that feeling for what the symbol is going to be throughout the cards. Here's the Ten of Pentacles. So I'm not in love with the symbol that they chose for the Pentacles in this deck. It kind of throws me off. So you can see it there kind of in close up. It's just, it's interesting. It's just not, I don't know why it throws me off, but it does. I guess because I do actually like the traditional symbol for that. Here's the Five of Pentacles. This one's beautiful. It's one of the reasons why I bought this deck. It's Four of Pentacles. So I tried to somewhat put these in order, but then I just shuffled them while I was talking because that's very relaxing for me. And yeah, oops. So, and you can see like with the Four of, I think it was Swords, the Four of Wands here, some of them have like these castle remains in the background as well, kind of going along with that traditional type of like our idea of Gothic, you know, that kind of Gothic feel. So again, Nine of Wands, which I just love. I can't stop looking at that one. And the Ten of Wands, which I adore and can't stop looking at. So here are two of the images that were the reason why I originally purchased the deck. And one of them is the High Priestess. She's just so beautiful in this deck, I think. And I just love her. And then this is one of the main reasons why I purchased the deck, and it's a very interesting take on the Empress, and I really, really love this image. It's not what you would traditionally see, and I enjoy that. And here's the Hierophant, just to throw it in for all of us Taurus people. You know, you've got some traditional Christian symbolism there, but I find the Hierophant himself very intriguing in this deck. So again, you can see that there's not a lot of colors. And it's really more about that theme and that feeling of that kind of Gothic tragedy, release, that darkness. But it's about incorporating it as a whole, which I find really beautiful. So again, here we have another image with some castle remains with the Six of Cups. And I'm just wanting to show you some more images. When I was editing this, I was seeing that I didn't really show enough images. So I want you to have a good feel for what the deck is going to be when you purchase it, because that's really why we watch reviews. So here's the Wheel. Again, interesting representation. And again, also you can see here strength. The darkness of this deck and the colors themselves. This is not a bright deck. So here, again, close-up of the sword suit, where we had the wands earlier. I love this image. I found myself underwhelmed by the Three of Swords in this deck. That's a really important card to me. I've talked about that a lot. I love it when people get it right, in my opinion. Right, in my opinion. You know, what I enjoy and think of as the Three of Swords. This is not one of those times. But it's not terrible. Here's the Four of Swords. I love this one. Six of Swords. So again, we've got that castle. We have that dark feeling. Here's the Seven of Swords. So there's really not a whole lot of... Here's the Sun. Not my favorite depiction of the Sun. There's not really a lot of cards that I don't like in this deck. Only a few. Here's Judgment. And, you know, it's minor gripes. It doesn't stop me from using the deck. And like I said, the photorealism is not irritating. So there's Robert Smith in the deck. And there's my Marilyn Manson in the Hollywood era, if any of you remember that as well. So this is actually one of those times when I don't mind the close association with two of my favorite musicians. It actually makes me feel kind of happy. But there are card images, again, like the Four of Wands, where it does have this kind of like gothic vampire feel. I don't mind that. It might bother you, but I really enjoy this type of symbolism and some of the closeness to like what we traditionally think of as being gothic in theme and feel. I love the darkness of this deck. There are not a lot of bright colors. It's very dark. So if you're someone who likes a pop of bright colors like the Tarot Illuminati, you're probably not going to enjoy this deck. But I have found that this deck is quite shy in nature, and it does require time and attention to it. But the beauty is that when you give the deck that time, and this holds true for all decks in my opinion, when you really honor that and give that spiritual tool, those 78 energies, that time to develop a relationship, that only benefits any readings you do, whether it's for yourself, for others, any type of meditation work you're doing, is only benefited by spending time with a deck. And so I do think that honoring a deck is important, and I especially feel that with the Dark Angels Tarot, honoring the deck is important, and it's an essential part of actually being able to give accurate readings with this deck, because there is not a lot of layered symbolism. This is a photorealism deck, but it's photorealism done for the most part right, in my opinion. So it's not distracting. It has a feel of a painting or a collage that you're stepping into. It's very layered. And so to me, this is photorealism done right, the way it should be done. It does not distract from me having an experience with each of the cards. Whereas with a lot of photorealistic decks, especially lately, it just feels like a knockoff, and it's very distracting for me. So as an example, the Witch's Tarot is really hard for me to step into a flow with. But photorealism done in this deck is very easy for me to flow with, and I really, really enjoy and love this deck. Like I said, it is a seasonal deck for me, but it's one that I work with a lot in that season. And it's one that I have a lot of love for and a lot of respect for. And it is one that has required me to spend some time with it. Like I said, it's very shy. And it doesn't share with me right away clarity, and it didn't reveal for me right away who it was as an energy. But I've gotten to know it over the years, and I really love this deck a lot. So I think this is not a deck for everybody. First of all, you've got to love darker themed decks. And then you have to be someone who likes to spend time with a deck. Otherwise, this is just going to sit and you're not going to use it, in my opinion. It's not one of those decks that you just pick up, don't spend any time with, and clarity is easily achieved, in my opinion. I think this is a deck that really does say, hey, you've got to get to know me, you've got to develop your own associations with me. And, you know, some of the symbolism is not the same as Rider-Waite-Smith. Most of it's pretty close, but it might take you some time to get there and to get to what the card is sharing with you. So On a whole, I recommend this deck if you're drawn to the artwork from watching this review. If you love darker themed decks, then this is a deck you're going to want in your collection. And it is a beautiful deck. It is really slippery though, which really does irritate me. Like, it slides all over the place. I wish Scarebeo would do something about that. But on the whole, I love this deck. I highly recommend it if you're a darker themed deck kind of person like I am. And I hope if you're considering purchasing the deck, you found this review helpful. So thank you for spending time with me. Many blessings to you on your path, and I will see you in the next video.